Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this opportunity to learn about Lam Rim. And it's taught by Dalai Lama and in 2008 in the Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Okay, let's begin. So this evening we'll go through the introduction, which pretty much gave a very well-rounded summary about chapter 1 of the Lam Rim, which is about Atisha. So after today's evening, we may move to the third chapter, which is how to listen to the Dharma. Yeah. So introduction. The following session is a summarized Lam Rim course based on His Holiness Dalai Lama's trip to Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, hosted by the Tibetan Buddhist Learning Center. So the entire video can be found at the following link. So here's what His Holiness Dalai Lama said. He said when he left Nobulenka that night on the 17th of March, 1959, he had his own personal Lam Rim as one of his private possession. And since then, he has given at least 15 times the Lam Rim teaching. And all those times he gave the teaching from this book that he had. So it's something very dear to him. And Lam Rim Chem Mo was written by Lama Tsong-ka-pa, a great scholar and a real holder of the Lananda tradition. But before His Holiness Dalai Lama begins, he wants to mention briefly about his basic views or commitments to the Buddhist community. Okay, his first commitment is to committed to the global responsibility. So what does that mean? Firstly, he said he is just one human being, and he's just one among the 6 billion human beings. And he thinks, beside our prayers, in reality, we, all 6 billion human beings, share one planet. We all survive under one sun. Even in today's reality, due to population increase, easier communication, modern economy, global economy, and the environmental issue, and because of these new factors, actually we simply become one community, one entity. So according to that reality, there is no separation or independence. We are all one. So according to that reality, there is no separation, independence, and individual interest. For each of us, our future entirely depends on the rest of humanity, the rest of the world. In ancient times, each nation, each community more or less lived independently. So our usual concept or view may still be that sort. The fact that our old thinking pattern remains today still shows there is a gap between the reality and our perception. Sometimes the gap is increasing. Because of that, with our old thinking, old way of viewing the world, our actions then become unrealistic. This way of viewing is sort of old pattern of thinking. So that's why he thinks, even though almost nobody wants more problem, and therefore does not want to create more problem. However, problems are there, and ironically, mostly man-made problems. So Dalai Lama feels that the problems are there because we lack that holistic, realistic view. So in order to develop a sense of global responsibility, we need to look at the entire planet. Just one small planet, and we shall see that an individual's future entirely depends on that. Therefore, we must take care of this planet because that is the best way to safeguard our individual future, isn't it? So we need the sense of concern for the well-being for the rest of the people, rest of the sentient beings, rest of the world. Therefore, his number one commitment is to make clear of that. And he emphasized that we need a wider view and a sense of global responsibility. That is our number one commitment. So with respect to Buddhist teaching, we should not take it as religion, but simply some ideas. To think of the entire sentient beings is more useful. Maybe thinking about the outer space is unrealistic because it is too far from us. It looks as if it does not make much sense, but emotionally it is very useful. So when we are thinking about infinite planets, infinite sentient beings, and when we will also think about the 6 billion human beings on this planet, and billions of animals who really suffer immensely under human hand, isn't it? So the Buddhist message, the message of infinite altruism, that's something very relevant. Not talking about next life, nor talking about Buddhahood, but simply in order to be a happier person, a more sensible person, a more useful person on this planet, I think the message or teaching of infinite altruism, which is kind deed, is something very useful. Furthermore, in our day-to-day life, whenever we are facing some difficulties, some of these ideas are really helpful to equip our minds, or particularly our emotions, so that when we are passing through difficulties, we can still maintain our mind, our peace of mind. So that also is very, very good for our health. Too much worry, adversity, and ambition. Too much ambition bounds us to increase suspicion and jealousy. As a result, more unrest. So some of these sorts of thoughts, these sorts of Buddhist ideas are very useful for the well-being of one individual, mentally and emotionally, and through that way, physically also. So therefore, to non-believers who have no interest about religion, it's okay. Listen to some of these ideas. If you feel it is something useful, then take it. If you feel it is nonsense, then forget. It's no problem.